The difference between a comedian and a philosopher. A comedian will make you laugh. A philosopher makes you think. I mean, I guess they both make you think, but the philosopher usually ends up executed if they're any good, because what does a good philosopher do except for offend people? And not by trying to, but just by telling the truth. There's two ways of telling the truth. Making people laugh and then being too straightforward about it. So the hardest truth to tell is about ourselves, though. Yeah, I'm scared. I'm meddling. I'm dishonest. You ever think about that when you wake up in the morning? What your character is? How people see you? You ever think about the kind of people you're going to come across? Imagine if you woke up every day, deep breath, thought about it, and just said, okay, the people I'm going to meet today. Tell me if this sounds familiar. The people I'm going to meet today, they're meddling, they're arrogant, they're ungrateful, they're dishonest, they're jealous, they're rude. But you know what? The reason that they're that way is just because they don't know any better. They don't know any better. They think that by being arrogant and rude, they think that they're getting ahead, but they're not. It makes it way easier to deal with people. And it's worse than even just that, because there's a lie that we tell other people, and then they might find us out. And like if I were to ask you why it is that lying is so bad, most of us, we have like a passing understanding of it. Like almost like a pre-programmed answer, like why is it such a terrible thing to lie? Because then you might get found out. Yeah, but why is that so bad? Well, because you get found out and then they're going to think badly of you, and that's bad. Okay. Why? And we keep digging until what you start till finally, hopefully at some point, you get this idea that that's reality. Right? That's the world as it really is, let's say. Okay? That's the line that represents reality, that this is a line that represents truth. Now, when you lie to another person, you don't just like trick them, you literally change the course of their life. Even a little tiny lie changes the course of someone's life, because we live based off of the information that we have. We make decisions based off of the information that we have. And so if you're lying to a person, you're causing them to live in accordance with reality, but then just a little bit of a lie now causes them to see the world or the universe differently than it actually is. You've tricked them just with your words. And this is why I didn't do this, but I'll ask you sometimes, why do we bother to study this language arts thing? And one of the reasons, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, because there's almost nothing else that you have control over that's more akin to a superpower than the ability to use language well. If you have a strong enough grasp on language, you can actually change how people see the world. You can modify and you can manipulate how they behave, because you can change what they actually perceive in the world. And if you can change what they see in the world by manipulating them with language, you can get them to do whatever you want them to do. I mean, this is the history of cults, isn't it? Of all kinds of cults. Religious cults, political cults, social cults. This is what you do. You get people to actually you can ask them that, you can be so good with language where you can actually ask a person this question like, come on, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? And people will say, yeah, you're right, I believe you. I can't trust what I see. People will trust you more than what they see themselves. And so if you lie to a person well enough, you actually commit them to a parallel reality that doesn't actually exist. And now they're living in a completely different reality. It does not correspond to the true reality. They're now living in a fictional world that you've created. Any of you guys have little brothers, nieces, nephews, cousins? If you, the younger a kid is when they lie, how do I say this? One of the indications of intelligence in a kid is how early they start to lie. If you have a little kid and they start to lie immediately, like they have a marker, and you ask them, do you have the marker? And they're like, no. They have it. You can see behind their back. They don't know that you know it's there, because there's a thing in kids called object permanence. Take a marker to a little kid, be like, they're excited because it's purple and they love purple. And then you take it and you put it behind your back and they get all sad. That's because in their mind it's out of sight, which means they don't think it exists in reality anymore. They think you've gotten rid of it. It's gone. So a kid will get very upset. When kids start to develop their brains, they will start to realize, no, it's not gone forever, it's just behind his back. When my mom and dad go to work, they're coming back, they always do. In other words, they don't have to have it in front of them to know it exists in the world. So far, so good? Okay. And the same is true about knowledge. When a kid realizes, I know things that you don't know, that's a really advanced concept for kids to get a hold of. So when a kid will go, marker, I don't have the marker, and they lie to you, that tells you that they're very intelligent when they're little. Because now they realize there's a difference between what they know and what you know. Now, that doesn't mean you should encourage kids to lie. It's only if they do it naturally, and you should still correct them when they lie. But they realize this at an unconscious, intuitive level, that they're actually able to create reality with words. Now, it's amazing when you think about it. Yeah, I guess you could put a gun to someone's head and tell them, what you want them to do. I suppose so. And then the second you turn away from them, they're going to jump on you or run away, call the cops, whatever. Or, if you're good enough with language, you can convince them that it was their idea in the first place and tell them what you want them to do, and they'll do it willingly. You can go to McDonald's or whatever. You'll come back and you'll still find them doing whatever you want them to do. So, that's one of the reasons that language is so important. That's why lying is so powerful. It actually changes the directions in which people live. Yeah, again, like 10 minutes ago, sorry. And why do we do something like that? Why would I be all over you about the speck of dust in your eye while ignoring the plank of wood in my own eye? Why? Yeah, and sometimes you just can't fix it. Like for example, like JJ, look at his hair. You believe that guy's hair? Just look at his hair, dude.
Easy.
You guys believe that guy woke up and he actually just, don't look at me. Look at his hair, man. You believe he actually designed it that way. Why don't want you guys looking at JJ's hair?
You're balding?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's easier for me to say, look at that. Look at that guy. Don't look at me. Look at that guy. Because it's easier for us. Because what happens if everyone turns their eyes towards me? Well, then they might start judging me. Which will make more sense, by the way, in fourth quarter. You guys, for those of you who are still here, it's descending. There will be time. Descending the stair to turn back, and they will say, "My, how his hair is growing thin." Yeah, Jade, you're gonna say. I know none of you guys. I know none of you guys, I'm sure. But some of you probably remember what it was like being in 10th grade. And I had that one kid in class who would be obnoxious or distracting, whatever, and then the teacher would say something to them about it, and they'd be like, "Why me? Well, first off, I didn't even do anything. Why me? That guy's talking too." Because what's the alternative? To fix myself? That's a lot of work, man. Because to fix myself, I have to know what's wrong with me. And how do I find out what's wrong with me? Well, I'm going to have to go into the dark parts of my own self, my own soul. And that's a really scary place, because what's in the dark? Whenever we inhabit with our imaginations, what's in the darkness of my soul? I don't know. I don't want to go there. Have you guys looked at JJ's hair? You follow? It's easier for me to distract and point the finger at somebody else rather than have, yeah, I know, it's pretty cool, man. I wish. It's easier for me to point at somebody else than to dig deep into myself, because who knows what I'm going to find there? Am I going to find weakness? Am I going to find fear? Am I going to find all of the things I accuse other people of, only to find out that what I hate the most in them is what I hate about myself? It's the image of me staring at the mirror, getting pissed and punching it because I hate what I see. It's a dark place to go looking, but it's you won't believe me, but I'll tell you anyway, it's rewarding though. Because the things that you most need to find in your life, I promise you, they're going to be found in the places that you least want to look. Because if you wanted to look there, you'd be doing it already. It's like if you're to find the purpose of your life, I would ask you what's the meaning and the purpose of your life. You might say, I don't know, probably, as most people would. But I don't know what the meaning and the purpose of your life is, but what I can promise you is that the meaning of your life and the purpose of your life is not going to be found in your warm bed. Because if it was going to be found there, you would have found it by now. And so that tells me, anyway, for myself, that the purpose of my life is somewhere out there. Carlos, thing down.
Is like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is a good question to ask. Who am I to judge? Who am I to judge? There's a difference between judging and pointing something out. Like if your friend is standing on Highland out here after school and the cars are going by and they cover up their eyes and they're like, I'm gonna run across the street. And you tell them, don't do it. You can't make it. Who are you to judge me? Well, first off, I'm not even standing over here. I'm standing back here, you know? But who are you to judge me? Oh, sorry. Who are you to judge me? I'm the guy who sees something that you don't see. It doesn't mean I'm never going to get hit if I cross the street. It just means that I see something that you don't see. Now, of course, there are people who, no matter what you do, they're going to chime in and give you their opinions. And you shouldn't give your opinions and your advice to everybody. Only give it to people who ask. And if people ask you for advice, I guess you have a duty and obligation to give them your honest opinion. But by the same token, don't ask for those things unless you want their advice, their opinions. So sometimes a person can see something that you don't see. And for whatever reason, we get into our heads like that means there's something wrong with me if I don't see something wrong. You know? That's why it's good to have people around you who can tell you the truth. Who can tell you the truth. I think it was in this class where I was talking about the job of the comedian. The class con, was it in this class? I was talking in one of my classes about the job of the comedian. What's the comedian's job in society? We might say, make us laugh. Why? And ultimately, as you get to the bottom of it, the comedian's role is to tell us the truth. To tell the truth. If I come in and I tell you, let's say there's a king and he has these policies that are leading to massive famine. Lots of people in the kingdom are dying. And then I go in there and I say to the king, your policies are killing people. Fix them. And I walk away. The king will say, thanks for your input. Kill him. Because if you tell the truth to the king, he's going to kill you. But then the jester goes in there, you know, with the weird outfit and bells and everything. Everyone's laughing because he looks so silly. And he says, oh, good news, king. Your policies your policies that led to famine have killed so many people that there's enough food left for the rest of us who are still alive. And then everyone laughs, and then the king's like, all right, I get it. And, you know, because you tell it as a joke. You make people laugh. They're not going to want to kill you. If you don't think that's true, just watch almost any comedian. Watch Dave Chappelle. That guy says stuff that people would want to kill him. They already want to kill him anyway. But even more so if he wasn't a comedian. If he didn't couch what he says as a joke, but just couch it as a statement, well, then you get executed. The difference between a comedian and a philosopher. A comedian will make you laugh. A philosopher makes you think. I mean, I guess they both make you think. But the philosopher usually ends up executed if they're any good, because what does a good philosopher do except for offend people? And not by trying to, but just by telling the truth. There's two ways of telling the truth. Making people laugh and then being too straightforward about it. So the hardest truth to tell is about ourselves, though. Yeah, I'm scared. I'm meddling. I'm dishonest. You ever think about that when you wake up in the morning? What your character is? How people see you? You ever think about the kind of people you're going to come across? Imagine if you woke up every day, deep breath, thought about it, and just said, okay, the people I'm going to meet today. Tell me if this sounds familiar. The people I'm going to meet today, they're meddling, they're arrogant, they're ungrateful, they're dishonest, they're jealous, they're rude. But you know what? The reason that they're that way is just because they don't know any better. They don't know any better. They think that by being arrogant and rude, they think that they're getting ahead, but they're not. It makes it way easier to deal with people. You know? And then the same is true about ourselves, because once I realize, wait a second, like, for example, I've heard, I don't think this is possibly true, but I've heard that some people think I'm an asshole. I've heard this before. Some people say, I have this reputation apparently. How's that possible? No way. I'm lovable and funny and humble as well. But you know what? Enough people say it, I must come off in some way. Certainly. And so what do? Well, if enough people are saying it, it isn't a matter of like, there's something terrible about me. It's just a question like, do I want that rep though? Maybe I should try to fix those things about myself. That's why it's good to have people around you who you can trust to tell you the truth. Because if people hate you, they might just call you those names because they hate you. But But the people around you who care about you, they should be able to tell the truth about you. Have those people around you. And so unless you're able to do it, you can't tell other people the truth. So tell the truth about yourself. Yeah. Wouldn't you rather be rich and loved, though, and famous? And so, yeah. There you go. Even if I'm the fakest bastard in the world. Yeah. Good. By the way, that is a choice that some people can have to stare down at some point. Yeah. Because it's easy for us to say that, but imagine if being yourself actually costs you something. Yeah. And there's something to what you're saying, because you're going to suffer either way. Life is suffering. We've talked about already. And you don't get to choose not to suffer, but you can choose what you're going to suffer for. That's freedom. You can suffer for being yourself, and people are going to hate you. You can suffer for being something that you're not, and people are going to call you fake, but worse over, you're going to know that you're fake. That's the hardest kind of thing to have to endure. And so the question is, what do we want to suffer for? What do I want to be? What character traits do I want to have? How do I want people to see me? So, good. Very good. Yeah.